You must be joking. The idea sounds almost absurd at first. Sweden, a country better known for its peaceful landscapes and minimalist design, building a cutting-edge fighter jet. It's the kind of news that makes people do a double take. Building a world-class fighter jet isn't like assembling IKEA furniture. It's a monumental challenge that takes years of planning, billions in investment, and a relentless drive to innovate. Every bolt, every circuit, every line of code must be perfect. You need money, genius engineers, and serious political will. It's a high-stakes gamble where failure isn't just embarrassing, it's expensive and potentially dangerous. So, when Sweden, famous for Volvo's ABBA and meatballs, announced the Gripen project, the world laughed. The idea of a small neutral country taking on the giants of military aviation seemed almost comical. The Americans had F-16S, the Russians had MiGs, and the French had Mirages. These were legendary machines, backed by decades of experience and massive defense budgets. Sweden, they were the underdog, the outsiders in a race dominated by superpowers. Most people thought they didn't stand a chance. Experts said Sweden lacked the resources, the experience, and the industrial muscle. Many predicted the project would end up as an expensive failure, a cautionary tale for dreamers. But Sweden wanted a jet that could do it all: fight, attack, scout, and be cheap enough for a small nation to afford. They wanted flexibility, reliability, and cutting-edge technology, all in one package. It was a wild, almost impossible wish list, the kind of ambition that usually gets laughed out of the room. But for Sweden, this was about more than just a plane. It was about independence, national pride, and proving to the world that they could stand on their own. They needed a jet to defend their vast, sparsely populated country, without relying on superpowers or foreign alliances. The stakes were high, and the mission was personal. The Gripen was a statement: we can do this ourselves. It was a bold declaration of self-reliance and technological ambition. With stubbornness, creativity, and something to prove, Sweden set out to build the impossible. They were determined to show the world what a small nation could achieve. The stage was set for either a triumph that would stun the world, or a spectacular disaster that would be remembered for years. The early days of the Gripen project were anything but optimistic. The public, bombarded by skeptical headlines, doubted the project from the start. Experts and retired generals lined up to declare it doomed, comparing Saab's tiny budget to America's giants. They called it a dead duck, a lead balloon, impossible. Rival manufacturers fueled the negativity, eager to see the project fail. Politicians used the Gripen as a political football, debating every delay and glitch. The project was always on the brink of cancellation. Saab's engineers weren't just fighting physics, they were fighting relentless skepticism and political games. It's a miracle they got any work done at all. Against all odds, the team pressed on. David was building a slingshot and Goliath was laughing. But the story was far from over. The Gripen team faced biblical challenges, starting with money or the lack of it. Every decision, every bolt, every line of code had to be justified. There was no room for waste, no margin for error. The pressure to deliver something world-class on a shoestring budget was relentless. Saab's budget was a fraction of what the Americans or Russians spent. While superpowers poured billions into their jets, the Swedes had to make do with far less, relying on ingenuity and resourcefulness to bridge the gap. Every krona had to be stretched, forcing the team to be clever and efficient. They reused parts, found creative solutions, and worked long hours, often improvising with what little they had. The jet's design was intentionally unstable, making it agile but impossible to fly without advanced computers. This radical approach was both a risk and a necessity, pushing the boundaries of what was possible at the time. In the 1980s, this fly-by-wire technology was cutting-edge and risky. Few had attempted it, and fewer still had succeeded. The team was venturing into uncharted territory, where a single mistake could spell disaster. Politically, Sweden's neutrality meant they had to develop almost everything themselves. No buying off-the-shelf parts. International embargoes and strict policies forced them to innovate at home, building a fighter jet from scratch. The stakes were enormous. Sweden's air defense and industrial base depended on the Gripen. Failure would mean not just a lost project, but a blow to national pride and security. Then disaster struck. A prototype crashed in 1989 due to a software glitch. The crash sent shockwaves through the team and the country, casting doubt on the entire project. Critics pounced, the media went wild, and the project teetered on the edge of cancellation. Headlines questioned the team's competence, and politicians debated pulling the plug. But the team didn't give up. Instead, they doubled down, determined to prove the doubters wrong and save their vision. They fixed the software, rebuilt the jet, and pushed forward. Every setback became a lesson, every failure a step closer to success. The pressure was immense, but so was their determination. The team worked day and night, united by a sense of purpose and national pride. They weren't just fixing a bug, they were saving a national dream. The Gripen was more than a jet. It was a symbol of Swedish resilience and innovation. The darkest hour was behind them. Against all odds, the team had survived the storm and emerged stronger. Now it was time to prove everyone wrong and show the world what Swedish determination could achieve. How did Sweden pull it off? By being clever, not complicated. In a world where military technology often means more complexity, more cost, and more bulk, Sweden took a different path. They asked, what if we could outsmart, rather than outspend, the competition? The Gripen is small and light, deliberately so. That means cheaper engines, lower fuel use, and a smaller radar signature. Its compact size makes it harder to spot, easier to maintain, and much more affordable to operate than its larger rivals. Its brain is a revolutionary computer system that fuses all data and presents it simply to the pilot. Instead of overwhelming the pilot with information, it distills everything down to what matters most, letting them focus on the mission. This sensor fusion was years ahead of its time, giving pilots a huge edge. It meant faster decisions, better situational awareness, and a safer, more effective fighting machine. The jet's unstable design with delta wings and canards made it incredibly agile. It could outturn and outmaneuver many heavier jets, giving Swedish pilots a real advantage in a dogfight. It could land and take off from short stretches of road and be turned around in minutes by a handful of conscripts. This meant Sweden could hide its jets anywhere, on highways, in forests, or even on remote rural roads. No other fighter could match this flexibility. While other air forces needed massive, vulnerable air bases, Sweden could scatter its jets and keep them flying, even if the main bases were destroyed. The Americans built jets for massive air bases. The Swedes built one for forests and highways. It was a radical shift in thinking, one that prioritized survival and adaptability over brute force. The result? A supercar's speed, a supercomputer's brain, and the running costs of a family car. The Gripen could be everywhere, strike fast and keep flying when others were grounded. The Gripen wasn't just another fighter, it was a new way of thinking about air power. It proved that with the right ideas, a small country could punch far above its weight. Efficiency, simplicity, and adaptability were its secret weapons. Every detail was designed for quick action, easy repair, and maximum impact with minimum fuss. It was clever, not complicated. The Gripen showed the world that innovation isn't about adding more, it's about doing more with less. And it was about to shock the world, rewriting the rules of modern air combat. After the crash and criticism, the redesigned Gripen was ready for its debut. At an international air show, the world's top jets strutted their stuff, and then came the Gripen. Experts watched, expecting failure. Instead, the Gripen danced through the sky, tight turns, vertical climbs, and impossible maneuvers. The pilot and jet moved as one, the computer system working flawlessly. The crowd was stunned, skeptics were silenced. The Gripen wasn't underpowered or compromised, it was a true fighter. The demonstration proved Saab had built a giant killer. Experts rewrote their opinions, and military attachés took notice. The little Swedish jet had arrived, smashing expectations. It was a moment of national pride and a turning point in aviation. The world would never look at Sweden the same way again. The Gripen's success wasn't just for show, it delivered in real operations. In service, it proved reliable and quick to turn around, flying more sorties than many larger, costlier jets. In Libya, Gripens flew hundreds of reconnaissance missions, integrating seamlessly with NATO and outperforming expectations. At Red Flag, the world's toughest air combat exercise, Gripen pilots shocked rivals with their kill ratios and tactical flexibility. The jet's advanced data link, radar and agility gave it a real edge. Countries from the Czech Republic to Brazil chose the Gripen for its performance and value. It offered top-tier capability without breaking the bank. The Gripen story is about smart design, not just technology. It proved you don't need the biggest budget to build the best tool. All you need is the cleverest ideas, and Sweden had plenty. The Saab Gripen didn't just fly, it soared past every expectation. It shattered the myth that bigger is better, proving a small, smart jet could be just as deadly. Its focus on advanced avionics and pilot-friendly design set a new industry standard. The Gripen inspired a new generation of fighters and gave smaller nations the confidence to innovate. It broke the monopoly of the big players and showed that great ideas can come from anywhere. Today, the Gripen continues to evolve, leading the way in modern air combat. It's a story of refusing to accept impossible. The Gripen didn't just break the sound barrier, it broke the mold. Sometimes the cleverest fighter isn't the biggest one, and for that, the Gripen is truly brilliant.